In today's class also we are continuing the same topic, that is third topic, plant kingdom. But in today's class we will take a first classification of bryophytes. There are three classes in the Bryophytes groups. Already I have mentioned all the three classes name. The first class is Hepaticopsida, which is commonly called the Liverworts. An example for this group or class are Rixia, Markensia, Porella, Pelia. The second class is Anthoceropsida, which includes hornworts. And example for this class are Anthoceros, Notothyllus, etc. And the third class is Bryopsida, which includes or commonly called the mosses. And the example for this group are Funaria, Sphagnum and Polytrichum. But we are not studying all the three classes. We are studying only the two groups, liverworts and mosses, for first PUC science class. So let us first start with the liverworts. We'll discuss first about the liverworts. So the liverworts usually grow in the moist, shady habitats such as the banks of rivers, damp soil and marshy ground and the bark of trees and in the deep wood. They usually grow in moist and shady habitats such as banks of rivers, marshy ground, damp soil, bark of trees and in the deep wood. So these are the different habitats of this group of organisms. The second character. The plant body of liverworts is thallus. They have primitive plant body. Plant body is thalloid or thallus. Means the body is not differentiated into root, stem, leaves, like etc. So it's an undifferentiated body. So such body is called the thalloid. So the thallus is dorsiventral and oppressed the soil by rhizoids. Example, Markensia. So the thallus is dorsiventrally the flat structures in case of Rixia and Markensia. Dorsiventral means what? Dorsal means upper surface, ventral means lower surface. When there is no distance between dorsal and lower surface, both the surfaces are very close to each other and they look like they are attached with each other. And such structure is called the dorsiventral, just like a leaf structure where upper and lower surface are very close to each other. So even here also the thallus is very flat structure and that's why it is called the dorsiventral, and it is attached to the side by the help of root-like structures called the rhizoids. So here I am going to draw a simple diagram of the thallus of Markensia. So this is the midrib. Rixia and Markensia have dichotomous branched structure. And this is the upper surface and lower surface, or we may call the dorsal surface, which is green in color. And on the lower surface we see such a tiny root-like structures. These root-like structures are for the rhizoids, because they are not true roots. If you observe in detail structure of these roots, these are unicellular, unbranched structures. So we see unicellular, unbranched rhizoids in the liverworts. Even if you observe in Rixia has these tiny branch-like structures and one above the other. So such leafy structures are, or thallus is arranged as in the form of rosette. A larger is one below and the smaller structure is on the above in the form of rosette. We see such thallus in the Rixia. This is dorsal surface and other side is lower surface, which also attached to the soil by the help of unicellular unbranched root-like structure rhizoids. Next. So we will discuss about the next character. The members of leafy. So members of liverworts which are leafy structure. The leafy members have a small erect axis surrounded with two rows of tiny leaves. So these are the rhizoids. This is the axis which is surrounded with tiny leaves. So this is the structure of a leafy members. So here also we may say that these are the rhizoids which are root-like, and stem-like structure called the phylloid, and leaf-like structure are called the phylloid. Stem is colloid. So now we'll discuss about the reproduction in liverworts. Asexual reproduction takes place by the fragmentation of thalli. Asexual reproduction by the fragmentation of thalli. When thalli become fragmented, each fragment will develop into new individual. So there are some specialized structures also there in this group. These specialized structures are called the specialized structures are there, which we call the zymae. They are called the zymae. And these zymae are multicellular green asexual buds. Zymae are multicellular green asexual buds, and they develop in a receptacle. They develop in the receptacles called zyma cups. They are called the gyma cups. So here just now I have drawn the diagram of a dichotomous branch of the Markensia. So on the edge, so we see the some cup-like structure. These are the rhizoids. Within this cup-like structure, there are asexual buds. These are called the gymae. Whenever these gymae detach from the main thallus, they develop into new thallus. So in this way, they help in the asexual reproduction for the liverworts. Now we will discuss about the sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction. During sexual reproduction, sex organs develops on the thallus. Either they may appear on the same thallus or they may present on the two different thallus. For example, in case of Rixia, both sex organs present on the same thallus. Both sex organs present on same thallus, which we call the monoecious thallus. Such thallus are called the monoecious. But in case of Markensia, male sex organ present on one thallus and female sex organ present on the another thallus. So one sex organ present on the one thallus and another sex organ present on the another sex organ. So two sex organ present on two different thallus. One thallus is having male sex organ, another thallus having the female sex organ. Such condition is called the dioecious. It's called the dioecious. Now, the process, reproduction, how it takes place. So, the male sex organ we call the anthodia. Female sex organ is called the archegonia. Anthodia produce biflagellate anthrozoids, whereas archegonia produce a single egg within a flask-shaped structure. And these anthrozoids has to reach the archegonial egg or the egg which is present within the archegonia. And here water acts as a media. Water is a media to transport anthrozoids towards the egg. And once the anthrozoids reach the archegonia, fertilization takes place. And due to fertilization, what happens? Fusion of anthrozoids and the egg, zygote is forming. And this is diploid. Because anthrozoids are also haploid, egg is haploid. Fusion of two haploid gametes results the diploid zygote. But in case of bryophytes, zygote is not immediately undergoing the meiosis process. It develops first a multicellular structure for the sporophyte. Sporophyte is produced from a diploid zygote which is also diploid. And this sporophyte is either you may say the dependent on gametophyte or we may also say partially parasitic. It's partially parasitic on photosynthetic gametophyte. So it depends on the female gametophyte for its nourishment or food. And this sporophyte, here the sporophyte formation takes place on the female thallus or female gametophyte, and it gets the nourishment from the female gametophyte, and the structure of the sporophyte has three parts. So foot, the stalk-like structure is called the seta, and bulge portion is called the capsule. Within this capsular structure, some of the cells undergo meiosis. The cells present inside this capsular structure undergo meiosis and produce the spores. And when these spores fall on the soil, they develop a new vegetative thallus. So in this manner, sexual reproduction takes place. One more time I will repeat how the sexual reproduction takes place in the liverworts. Sex organs develops either on the same thallus or on the different thallus. The male sex organ is called the anthodia, female sex organ is called the archegonia. Male sex organ anthodia produce biflagellate anthrozoids which are motile, and they swim in the water and reach the female gamete egg, which is present in a flask-shaped structure called the archegonia. When the fusion of these two male and female gametes results a diploid structure called the zygote. Zygote never undergo immediately meiosis in the bryophytes. It produces a multicellular structure called the sporophyte. Sporophyte is dependent on a photosynthetic gametophyte because it is not producing food on its own. And that's why it is called the partially parasitic. So it depends on the gametophyte until it produces the spores. So the sporophyte has three parts: foot, seta, capsule. Within the capsular region, there are some cells which undergo meiotic division and produce the 4 haploid spores. When these haploid spores fall on the ground, they develop either male or female, the gametophytes. So this is the cycle which takes place during the sexual reproduction. So examples I already mentioned: Rexia, Markensia, Forella. These are the example for the liverworts. Now we'll move to the next type or group of bryophytes, that is mosses. This is another group which come under the bryophytes. The predominant stage in the life cycle of mosses is gametophyte. Predominant stage in the life cycle of mosses is gametophyte. And this gametophyte has 2 stages. One is protonema, which is also called the juvenile phase, juvenile stage, or leafy stage, which is also called the mature. Protonema develops directly from spore. It develops from spore. Whereas leafy stage develops from the secondary protonema. It develops from the secondary protonema as a lateral bud. So the structure, it is a creeping green branched filamentous structure or stage. So leafy stage is a erect or upright structure. The axis bears small tiny leaves. And attached to the soil by the help of branched or multicellular root-like structure called the rhizoids. So these are multicellular. Why we call them multicellular? I will enlarge the structure. This is the enlarged structure of a rhizoid which has oblique septa. In each compartment there is a nucleus. That's why these are called the multicellular. During young stage they are transparent, but as they become older they become reddish brown in color. And these are called the rhizoids because they are root-like structure, not true roots. They are called the rhizoids, or we may call the root-like structures. Root-like structure. The axis which is look like a stem is called the colloid or stem-like structure, and this, which bears leaves. These are also not true leaves. They are called the phylloid or leaf-like structures. Leaf-like structure. So this is the structure of the leafy stage. Leafy stage. So next we will talk about the reproduction. Asexual reproduction takes place by fragmentation and also budding on the secondary protonema. And sexual reproduction takes place by the development of sex organs, and sex organ usually present on the tip of the axis. So this branch or axis branches once in its life. There will be one more branch which also bears tiny leaves around it. On the apical region or tip region, we see here in this structure, we see the sex organ. So one branch bear male sex organ and another branch bear the female sex organ. Usually the erect branch will have the female sex organ. Sex organ, or we call the archegonia. Archegonia. And the other branch which has the male sex organ. Male sex organ, or which we call the antheridium. So reproduction process is same as in the case of liverworts. So here also antheridium produce the male gametes, anthrozoids, and which are biflagellates, and they reach the archegonia where they meet the single egg. Fusion of these two male and female gametes results the fertilization and zygote formation. Zygote is not undergoing meiosis because it produces a sporophyte on the female branch. There is such a structure is forming which is called the sporophyte, and these parts are called the foot, seta capsule. Within capsular region, some of the cells undergo meiosis and produce the spores. By meiosis, they produce the spores, and these spores are haploid. When the haploid spores fall on the ground, they develop into new individual. So this is the life cycle in the mosses.